challenges to the growth of the fertilizer industry has been government interventions and policies. Some of these policies can clearly be referred to as problem policies. Unfortunately, they limit the ability of the private sector to innovate, adapt in ways that make markets work for the smallholder farmers. Agriculture is on the concurrent legislative list, and it means that all 36 states and the FCT have a right to formulate agricultural policies the way they deem fit. Two of those policies that come to mind are 1. Fertilizer subsidies, 2. Quality control. The need to address these challenging policies, among others, birthed Mira project supported by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation through AGRA. The Micro Reforms for Africa Agribusiness (MIRA) project is implemented in Nigeria in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development and the Nigerian Agribusiness Group (NABG), with support from Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa Agribusiness (AGRA), to provide technical support to help the government to create a private sector enabling environment. Two of the reform policies being identified and worked on since 2015 was on subsidy and quality control, which would involve the updating, passage and enactment of the Fertilizer Quality Control Bill and the Growth Enhancement and Support Bill (GES). Food is no doubt the most basic of all human needs. Agriculture and food security are synonymous with well-being of life. Prior to the discovery of crude oil, Nigeria was a major producer of food and other agricultural commodities, which was consumed locally as well as exported, being the main earner of revenue.
Our administration's key strategy is to ensure that Nigeria becomes self-sufficient in the foods that we consume the most.
Since the discovery of crude oil, the agricultural sector has suffered a major setback.
The administration has prioritized agriculture and food security as the basis for socio-economic development, not least because of our conviction that Nigeria has the potential to produce what it eats, but also that we can be the breadbaskets of West Africa.
In spite of the continuous increase in population growth, it is estimated that the world population will reach over 9 billion by 2050, with Africa accounting for an additional 1.3 billion people, while Nigeria's population would be estimated at 398 million by the end of 2050, according to the United Nations population projection. This implies that there would be increased pressure on available resources such as land, water, and increased demand for agricultural products due to population growth. To solve this emerging threat and future scarcity of food, some necessary policies and laws are needed to be put in place, especially with regards to the availability of inputs such as fertilizers, which would enable smallholder farmers, who are the majority of the farm population in Nigeria, to produce food and guarantee food security in a sustainable manner. According to Food and Agricultural Organization (FAO), it is estimated that the average world fertilizer consumption peaked at about 186.67 million tons, with an average recommendation of about 150 kg of nutrient per hectare. However, Sub-Saharan Africa and Nigeria in particular use less than 30 kg per hectare. Agriculture is a very important sector and still accounts for 23% of GDP in Nigeria. According to the rebase exercise conducted in 2013, about 90% of the total agricultural output is produced by smallholder farmers, mainly subsistent in nature, residing in the rural areas, cultivating between 0.8 to 1.2 hectares in forest areas and 2 to 4 hectares in savanna areas, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. What is fertilizer? Fertilizer is a chemical or natural substance added to soil or land to increase its fertility. It can be simply put as any substance that improves the growth and productivity of plant. Fertilizer as an input is critical to ensuring increased productivity in agriculture. It is said that it accounts for 35% increase in the yield.
Every farmers are looking for it. I use it here on my farms. Not only this one, there's another one there. All my neighbors, they are getting it from me.
A good example is in the area of cereals that are staples across the country, where yields of up to 8 tons per hectare is possible, but average yields are about 1 to 2 tons per hectare. In order to achieve good harvest, it is important that good quality inputs like fertilizers are applied in a timely manner. There are two main types of fertilizers: organic, derived from plant and animal, and 2 inorganic, mineral fertilizers. Production. Fertilizer production in sub-Saharan Africa is generally low. The region consumes nearly 3 million tons of urea annually, and it makes up more than 40% of its total fertilizer consumption. Fertilizer application rates in sub-Saharan Africa are low relative to the rest of the world. In 2006, average fertilizer use in sub-Saharan Africa was about 8 kg per hectare, apart from South Africa, a tenth of the global average recommendation. In that same year, African Union member states met in Abuja, Nigeria, and adopted the Abuja Declaration on Fertilizer for the African Green Revolution, pledging to increase fertilizer use to 50 kg per hectare by 2015. Fertilizer production in Nigeria has been historically low, and before the liberalization of the industry in 1997, fertilizer distribution was solely in the public domain. Various policy approaches were tried with limited success. In the 2 years following the liberalization up to year 2000, the private sector made frantic efforts to fill the vacuum created by the withdrawal of government. A number of companies joined the fertilizer business, and many of them opened distribution outlets and warehouses in key agricultural zones. Today, Nigeria consumes about 1 million tons of NPK and 400,000 tons of urea, with a potential demand of up to 4 million tons of NPK and about 1.2 million tons of urea. Local production capacity for blending NPK has increased to about 4 million tons, urea about 2 million tons. Mainly due to private sector investment, Nigeria is capable of meeting her fertilizer needs. Other types of fertilizers produced in Nigeria include micronutrients, filler such as limestone granules. Nigeria will still rely on foreign imports for some other raw materials in the phosphate and potash groups.
Some of these raw materials we will continue to import, but thankfully, 2 of the 4 raw materials are available to us locally. The nitrogen component, which is urea, and the limestone granules, which is our filler. These 2 combined account for 36% and 27%. That's roughly what, 63%.
Some of this effort in reforms paid off, as there has been a gradual increase in the quantity of fertilizer produced in the last 10 years, with peak production being recorded in the last 2 years. Urea fertilizer production doubled from 281,750 metric tons to 695,000 metric tons in 2015 and 2016 respectively, while in 2017 it further increased to 1,420,000 325 metric tons. In the same vein, in 2017, the fertilizer blending plants saw improved NPK production to about 500,000 metric tons, which led to the recent increase in apparent consumption of major fertilizers, estimated at about 1.5 million in 2017. This increase in consumption was attributed to the increase in production of urea and the increase in imports of raw materials used in the production of NPK 20-10-10 produced under the Presidential Fertilizer Initiatives. The Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria, Fepsan, is a national trade association set up to represent the needs and interests of fertilizer manufacturers, blending plants, major distributors, dealers and farmers in Nigeria. The association was launched in February 2004 and registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Fepsan has been critical in the formulation and implementation of key reforms in the fertilizer industry, a product of its tireless effort aimed at ensuring an industry that thrives for its members by providing quality products necessary for the growth of the agricultural sector in Nigeria. These include the GES, PFI, Fertilizer Quality Control Bill, etc. The years between 2011 and 2015 marked a significant period when farmers were given improved access to fertilizers and improved seed at subsidized prices. Although subsidies have always been a feature of the agricultural sector, before 2011, fertilizer policies have gone through many phases: distribution by government through the local government, distribution by a task force or a special committee, or through agricultural input supply company. Government's intervention in the fertilizer supply value chain in Nigeria has always involved providing some sort of subsidy to farmers through one or more of the stakeholders in the fertilizer value chain. In 2012, government introduced the Growth Enhancement and Support Scheme, GES, which was a subset of the Agricultural Transformation Agenda, ATA. However, the program successfully registered for the first time a database of farmers, harmonized subsidy programs among states, attracted confidence in the private sector to invest locally, as a total of about $5 billion was attracted, particularly in urea production. In order to sustain these achievements and cement these successes, a GES bill was designed with the aim of institutionalizing the GES. The bill was prepared in 2014. However, it didn't get the required support as there was a change in government in 2015, and by now, both the public and private sector did not give it necessary push in the National Assembly, and this was evident in the Fepsan-Mira Stakeholder Workshop of 2016, where support for the bill was very low to non-existent. The new government of President Muhammadu Buhari invited Fepsan to help address this challenge. This became necessary as the economy was in a recession and government revenues had significantly declined. The result of the engagement with Fepsan was the birth of the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative, PFI, in 2016. Also addressing the reform subsidy, during one of the workshops held by Fepsan-Mira in October 2016, with support of AGRA, stakeholders at that meeting agreed that the GES has deviated from its original plan, which has now taken the fertilizer sector back to its low ebbs, with inadequate access to inputs topping the list of problems, aside from the impact it was having on local producers of fertilizer, who were now producing at 10% of the total national capacity of the blending plants, due to unfavorable market competition from imported fertilizers. After the workshop in 2016, and with a new federal government administration, the leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, Fepsan heightened its advocacy efforts, which was considered and looked into. President Muhammadu Buhari undertook exchange of diplomatic visit between him and the King of Morocco, His Majesty King Mohammed VI, that resulted in the signing of a bilateral agreement between the governments of Nigeria and Morocco to develop Nigerian fertilizer industry. Consequently, two leading fertilizer institutions in the two countries, that is, the Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria (Fepsan) and OCP, a majority state-owned company registered under the laws of Morocco, executed an agreement in the presence of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, and His Majesty King Mohammed VI of Morocco in December 2016. The goal of the PFI is to achieve self-sufficiency in local NPK fertilizer production by 2019, starting with 1 million metric tons for the 2017 wet season farming and an additional 500,000 metric tons for the dry season farming. The project is designed to 1. Stimulate local production of NPK by reviving local blending plants. 2. Make NPK fertilizer available to Nigerian farmers at affordable prices. For 2017, a target price of 5,500 naira per 50 kg bag was set as opposed to the market price of more than 8,000 naira.
It's moving very smooth. Because if you go to some states now, like from my own state, I'm from Benue State, they do talk about the fertilizer. That now that fertilizer is going all over everywhere, that with this development, that means next year, food is going to be surplus.
Last year, we produced 7 million tons of maize in Nigeria, and our capacity requirement is 7.5 million tons. So we have a deficiency of 500,000 metric tons, which we have to import into the country. But I'm glad to tell you this year, where farmers have produced in excess of additional 2 million. So we're at 9 million. So what do we do with the excess? That's what we should be thinking.
Ultimately, the objective of the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative is to deter from importation of blended fertilizer status quo by directly negotiating discounted contracts to procure the constituent raw materials used in the production of NPK fertilizer, and then supplies these raw materials to the blending plants, which it has already signed on as contract blenders. The blending plants then produce, bag and sell the finished packaged fertilizer to the off-takers, state governments, anchor borrowers programs and distributors and dealers at ex-factory price of 5,000 naira per 50 kg bag, which the off-takers resell to farmers at a target price of 5,500 naira per 50 kg bag. The 500 naira is to cover all off-takers' cost for transportation, profit and other logistics.
Well, I think this is an excellent and wonderful achievement. It is one of the best things that has happened to Nigerian agriculture over the years. It is this administration that has really brought something that will really help to sustain agricultural development. Over the years, so many programs have been put in place to supply fertilizers to farmers, but none has succeeded like this one, because in this one the fertilizer was produced locally, it was not imported. Only a few raw materials were imported. Other raw materials were sourced locally, and this has saved the government over $200 million in imports.
A total of 11 blending plants that met the requirements of the technical teams in respect of capacity and technical competence and other set criteria for blending fertilizer started the program, but that number has now increased to 18 blending plants now participating in the program. Here are some of the blending plants in the PFI. The Northwest regions has the following plants. 1. Fertilizer and Chemicals Kaduna 400,000 tons. MFB Limited Kaduna 300,000 tons. 3. Superphosphate Fertilizer Limited Kaduna 150,000 tons. 4. Golden Fertilizer Limited Kaduna 150,000 tons. 5. Kano Agricultural Supply Company Kano 400,000 tons. 6. Aliuma Fertilizer Kano 400,000 tons. 7. Citizens Fertilizer Kano 100,000 tons. 8. Alilewa Fertilizer Company Sokoto 70,000 tons. 9. Aliuma Fertilizer Zamfara 200,000 tons. 10. Funtua Fertilizer Limited Katsina 150,000 tons. North Central 1. Bejefta Fertilizer Company Plateau 300,000 tons. 2. Sora Fertilizer Company Benue 150,000 tons. 3. Maurice Fertilizer Company Niger 300,000 tons. Northeast 1. Bauchi Fertilizer Company Bauchi 150,000 tons. Southeast 1. Ebonyi Fertilizer Company Ebonyi 200,000 tons. South-South 1. Wakot Plant Edo 70,000 tons. 2. Greenwell Technologies Limited Akwa Ibom 200,000 tons. Southwest 1. Golden Fertilizer Plants Lagos 400,000 tons. There are new investment being considered for approval. 1. Tak Agro and Chemicals Ajaukuta Kogi State 500,000 tons. 2. OCP plants in Kaduna, Ogun and Enugu aggregate about 400,000 tons. 3. Alberca Fertilizer in Kebbi State 200,000 tons. 4. Notori Chemical Plant NPK 400,000 tons. Northwest Kaduna. The Fertilizer and Chemicals plant is a subsidiary under the TAC Group. It has an installed capacity of about 300,000 tons of NPK blends per year. It is fully automated plant. Unfortunately, before the PFI, it produced at least less than 10% capacity. Under the PFI, it produces at about 90% capacity. It employs about 500 staff, direct and indirect labor.
It is sustainability or rather continuation of a laudable project. Laudable this project is, there's no doubt about that. At least we're able to have fertilizer in good time, in appreciable price. To sustain it, I would want to put it squarely with the Sovereign Trust Fund, who are the funders of this project. They have taken a bold step, and I will encourage the government, the Office of the Presidency, the Ministry of Finance, the CBN, to look at it with the hindsight of let's still leave it as their own baby. Let them come up with it in a way that can be sustained.
Its revival has seen to the springing up of other streams of business around the plant area. North Central, Mina. Maurice Fertilizer Plant in Mina has an installed capacity of about 300,000 tons and was built about 28 years ago. It has suffered from lack of operations for over 5 years due to unfavorable government policies. It fully commenced operations in 2017 and is producing today at about 85% of its capacity. It employs about 400 direct and indirect staff. It is well positioned in Niger State, North Central Nigeria, to be able to deliver products to most parts of the region.
Arúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba bí iléeṣẹ́ Maurice ṣe padà wá tí bó ṣe ti tẹ́lẹ̀ kò dùn mọ́ wa. Bó ṣe ti tẹ́lẹ̀ kò dùn mọ́ wa, bó ṣe padà ní ìsàwá dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ ìjọba ni.
Maurice muna tare da shi fiye da shekara 15 da suka wuce. Har sai lokacin da gwamnati ta ce ta cire subsidy. Domin da ana subsidy ne a zo a ɗauka a kai ma gwamnati ko gwamnati mai ta gani cewa kila takin bai iya zuwa kai ga manoma.
Southwest Lagos. The Golden Fertilizer plant in the main country port in Apapa, Lagos was built in 1997 and has been active ever since. It belongs to the Flour Mills of Nigeria plc, a major agro-conglomerate in Nigeria. Due to its strategic location at the port with its own terminal, it is uniquely positioned to receive raw materials like diammonium phosphate and muriate of potash for the PFI. Golden has an installed capacity for 500,000 tons per annum and has since increased activity. It has put an additional 2 blending units of about 300,000 tons combined capacity to service its teeming customers. Southeast Ebonyi. The Ebonyi state government is amongst the only 3 approved quasi-government-run plants. The others are the Kano Agricultural Supply Company, Casco, and the Bauchi Fertilizer Company. However, these plants are run purely as autonomous units within government to ensure greater efficiency.
Yeah, you might have 7,000 and when the 9,000. Manambereba go to 5,300.
The Ebonyi state government pre-PFI was running at very minimal capacity, but today it's building a second brand new plant to be commissioned in December 2018 with a combined capacity of about 200,000 tons per annum. This plant is the only one of its kind servicing the entire southeastern region. It is therefore unable to meet its local demand in its state, not to talk of the entire region. It is worthy to note that with the successes in the PFI, new investments are coming in the southeast region. South Edo. The Edo Fertilizer plant in Auchi was built in 2002 by the Edo state government with state-of-the-art facilities for blending and chemical compounding of NPK fertilizer. It is sad to note that before the PFI, this plant had long been abandoned, and it is arguable if it has ever seen even a day of production. This plant was taken over by the Wakot Fertilizer Company in 2017 under the PFI and was commissioned by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, to commence blending under the PFI. The Wakot Group, under the partnership agreement with the Edo State government, invested substantially in reviving this plant and has since commenced production, uniquely positioned in the south-south region of the country.
I'm very much thrilled and elated. You know, the reason is one, we keyed into a government program where agriculture is a focus. Agriculture has been our business for the last 20 years, and we just found a government that is interested in that, and so we just keyed in. This is also a fertilizer plant that has been moribund and defunct for the last 15 years, and the farmers of this area go long distances to be able to get fertilizer. This is a solution for them.
Fepsan is supporting the administrative and legislative processes of bringing the legislative changes through the different stages of government decision-making and approval that they are required to go through to implementation. The Fertilizer Quality Control Bill, which had been put together for about 9 years, has never gone to the stage of first reading. However, the bill began to make significant progress when AGRA engaged Fepsan in December 2015. The bill went through first reading in House of Representatives in December 2015, then second reading on the 19th January 2016, and third reading and passage on the 2nd June 2016. The House of Representatives pushed the bill to the Senate. The bill went through the first reading in the Senate on the 22nd of March 2017 and through second reading on the 27th of September 2017. The Senate has sent the bill for a public hearing, which has been scheduled to hold on the 7th of November 2017. The bill was read on the 17th of July 2018 for the third time. The bill, when signed into law, will regulate the fertilizer industry by 1. registering all players in the value chain. 2. Ensure that standards for the industry are formulated. 3. Ensure the enforcement of these standards to check adulteration. The Green Alternative Roadmap policy has set out to ensure better improvement in soil health under the soil fertility thematic area by ensuring the passage of this all-important bill. To this end, the Minister of Agriculture rejigged the National Fertilizer Technical Committee, the highest advisory body on fertilizer to government, with Fepsan playing a key role, led by Professor Victor Chude. This project has worked closely with the committee to ensure that this bill is passed by organizing stakeholders' workshops where evidence-based advocacy is adopted over the 3-year period of the project. Professor Chude has met severally with officials of the National Assembly to ensure the passage of this all-important bill. It is important to note that passage of this bill will protect unsuspecting farmers, particularly smallholder farmers, from fake and adulterated fertilizer that limit their ability to maximize productivity, thereby becoming a major threat to national food security. Conclusion: the project has seen major strides since it commenced, and they are: 1. The birth of the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative (PFI), which has seen the revival of local blending and ensured that Nigeria attains its highest consumption per year even without a subsidy regime. 2. The rapid movement of the fertilizer bill in its quest to becoming the all-important law that will regulate the fertilizer industry in Nigeria. 3. The setup of an active side to track the movement of this bill in the legislative process. 4. A sustained media advocacy on these key reforms. So much have been achieved within a short space of time. The fertilizer industry is on a march to greatness. Thank you.